Taizo creates all-mineral sunscreen that fits into any skincare routine. Taizo sunscreens are lightweight, virtually invisible, and free of chemical sunscreens, so they're reef-friendly. Free of dyes, fragrances, and preservatives, it's elegant sunscreen you'll love and that loves your skin. Taizo Skincare is the perfect partner to our sunscreens in the fight against photoaging. With powerful antioxidants and benefit ingredients, Taizo Skincare helps diminish the visible signs of aging and prevents further damage. Visit taizoskin.com for more information. DMK is unlike any skincare company on Earth. Named after visionary founder Danae Montague King, DMK is committed to providing individualized products and treatment plans that heal skin on the cellular level, whether the condition concerns pigmentation, acne, inflammation, or signs of aging. DMK is home to the original enzyme mask, the game-changing formula that sends oxygenating, tightening, and exfoliating signals into the skin to enact changes in skin structures from the inside out. At DMK, we believe everyone deserves to feel the confidence that comes with healthy, beautiful skin. Learn more at DanaeMKing.com. That's DANNEM King.com.
Hello and welcome to ASCP's Esty Talk. I'm your co-host Maggie Staszcuk and ASCP's Education Program Manager.
And I'm Ella Cressman, licensed esthetician, certified organic skincare formulator, international educator, and content contributor for Associated Skincare Professionals.
We are very excited to be joined by Leigh Justine Wick, the founder and CEO of Vanity Makeup and Skin. Welcome to Esty Talk, Leigh.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Leigh not only runs a successful aesthetics business, but she is also an educator and understands the importance of accessibility in the treatment room from both a business perspective and a personal one. Leigh, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about what gives you this unique perspective?
Well, number one, I want to thank you guys for even approaching this subject. I feel like in the beauty industry, this subject's kind of been not that it's been avoided, but it has just not been discussed, right? It's just one of the holes that we need to kind of fill to bring visibility in for people of all abilities so that they have access to and don't feel excluded from an entire industry based on their mobility or based on their disability. So my name is Leigh Wick and I was born in 1970. So I'm 54 in the ancient days. And I have a disability called lumbar sacroiligenesis. So lumbar sacroiligenesis now is corrected in utero when the baby is in the womb. But when I was born in 1970, they didn't have those medical advancements. So I was born, and when I was 4, I was in the hospital until I was 4 years old. And when I was 4, they amputated my legs and used the bones from my legs to reconstruct my spine so that I wasn't sitting on or folded over on all of my major organs. So I was the March of Dimes poster child for 4 or 5 years. My mom was really important with regard to funding research for that disability. And I just am so blessed and honored to be alive at 54 and have a great life. I wear prosthetic legs and I use a wheelchair. I am pretty vain because it's not that I'm embarrassed to be seen. I mean, my wheelchair is very visible, right? So it's not that I'm embarrassed to be an amputee. Absolutely not. I just feel like I can reach things more. I can open doors. I'm not as dependent on others when I am in I use artificial legs, prosthetics, and I sit in a wheelchair. So when somebody just meets me, they don't necessarily know that my legs are prosthetic. I do sometimes enjoy the shock value of that whole thing, but that's for another show. So I own a spa. And so disabilities are something, it's like I live with that every day. And I see our society changing from just simple things that you don't realize. I feel like we've kind of gone backwards with regard to accessibility in the community, just with things that unless you're in, and I'm talking about it from my personal experience with being in a wheelchair, that I feel like this discussion is fairly new. I've not found anyone in my life who intentionally tries to create barriers. Mostly it's just self-advocating for what you need and then making sure that, whatever business or whoever you're dealing with can do the best. And accessibility, I think, is a subjective term. And that I really feel like we have a lot of discussions that we can have with regard to accessibility in the beauty industry, from that umbrella with spa, tattooing, hair, everything. Even the dentist's office is one of the most inaccessible places for people in wheelchairs. So those are important conversations.
I'm going to ask you to elaborate on accessibility because you said permanent makeup, and that triggered something for me because permanent makeup can be a procedure that's done to, say, for instance, somebody who's had breast cancer and remodel them, for lack of a better explanation. But when we're talking accessibility and when you're saying there needs to be better accessibility, what does that mean to you? And is that different for everybody?
I think it is different for everyone. And I feel like there's so many individual practitioners with regard to permanent makeup artists and estheticians. And, you might be going to somebody who you've seen on Instagram that has tons of followers and has a setup. And then you get there as a person in a wheelchair and it's in a tiny little room where there's no accessibility for you to even enter the room. So I really feel like that kind of conversation needs to be had between the practitioner, whether or not you're getting any service that requires the person leaving their wheelchair and getting onto like a treatment table, especially for the areola reconstruction or whatever you're getting done. Facials can be done in the chair. There's lots of different in the wheelchair. There's lots of different ways that the practitioner can get outside of their comfort zone and remain compliant, and it still meets the need for the consumer so that they don't feel like they're not able to, that their beauty dollar isn't able to be spent there. And that's the part that is so, to me, kind of sad, because when one of the weirdest ways that I didn't expect to build my whole business is that I was just approachable. Well, what does that even mean? That a person, and I can, I kind of, after this many years, because I've been in the beauty industry for 25 years. So I think, okay, it's because my wheelchair lets their guard down. And it's like, okay, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. And I just feel like we have to show differences in the industry in order for people who have differences to feel like they are welcome in that space. And that's the part that I think it requires a conversation, almost like a consultation for skin or for, contraindications. And I call it an accessibility consultation, just to find out, like, what do you need? I have a lot of clients. My spa is right next door to the Division for the Blind for Washington State. And so I've got some visually impaired clients, and I had never had a visually impaired client before. So it's so cool for me to learn other ways that I can even expand, right? Like, everything is from the perspective of being unable to walk and being shorter in a wheelchair. But I learn a lot from all of my clients just by asking them what their needs are.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. Tell us what an accessibility consultation looks like.
I'm a real tough love kind of person, right? My job is to, and as an esthetician and as a makeup artist, my job is to give you an amazing result. So I'm going to ask you, and I do some lasers and I do some things that can cause damage to a person's skin. So I'll go through the consultation, asking them, clearing them to receive the service first. And then I just sort of talk to them about my space. And then I ask, do they have any disabilities or any mobility challenges or any anxieties or any sort of mental health related issues that I need to be aware of so that I can create a safer space for them. And then they just opening that door, people will tell you pretty much everything. And then we can kind of come up with a plan together. Obviously, when I was in beauty school, I learned really quickly how to sort of make my treatment room work. And that was about 10 years ago. And so I've really kept that in mind for everyone. However, I can't help somebody lift themselves onto my bed, right? But I've had people come in and their spouse has lifted them on my bed. We just come up with a plan, right? And I have a lot of, I have several clients with service dogs, and that is excellent. Let me know where we can put the animal so that I can move around the way I need in order to complete the service in a safe manner, but that I can still respect that accommodation for you according to the law. And I feel like it's just such common sense, but we don't talk about it. And it's definitely something that's not addressed in beauty school unless you've got a disabled classmate that's going through that program. And then it's just like a blip on the radar and nobody else addresses it. And I think it's really unfortunate. So I'm so happy to talk about that today.
What was it about the beauty industry? Because I'm hearing you talk, and I'm understanding your mannerisms, and I'm hearing some of the things you're not saying too. I feel like there's a lot of care coming through, a lot of nurturing coming through. And I'm curious, what was it about the beauty industry? Not to say that they're not, one and the same, but what was it particularly about the beauty industry that drew you to this as a career?
So my day job, I was a paralegal for about 25 years, but I loved makeup, and I always loved makeup. So when the MAC cosmetics store opened in the Tri-Cities, I applied and to do it as a part-time. So I kind of felt like, wow, how lucky am I? This was in like the early 2000s. So that was when MAC was in its glory days. We got so much free product. It was like a dream come true for me. I didn't expect to kind of build a side business, but I did get a lot of people. I sort of became known for being the skin person, where the makeup was very crazy and cool. But that for me, the foundation of it was not necessarily foundation, but it was the good skin. So I had no plans to even go to beauty school, but this was about 10 years ago. And I was a paralegal, that was my quote unquote real job, but I was never super satisfied. I was really good at it. I don't take very much personally. I'm very direct. I'm really quick with my words, and I am caring. And I always kind of held the client's hand to make sure that we would complete cases. However, when I got the idea to go to beauty school, I was 45. And I did that just because I thought, I'm tired of doing something that doesn't totally fulfill me. And I know a lot of my skills are translatable into a business. And so I went to beauty school and wrote my entire business plan in beauty school, took all of my MAC clients and had them come in and built my entire business pretty much in beauty school. So I think it was like a really weird natural progression to what my interests were and what a lot of my skills with paralegal work were really translatable to business ownership. And so it just kind of evolved, a natural evolution.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Are you interested in providing results-driven treatment services? Join a team of like-minded individuals who share your passion and support your success. With more than 1,000 franchised locations in 49 states, Massage Envy is not only the nation's #1 provider of massage services collectively across its franchise network, but also a national leader in skincare. Start or grow your career at a Massage Envy franchised location. Visit massageenvy.com/SDcareers for full details.
Okay, here we go. Let's get back to the podcast.
What other tips for effective communication? And you mentioned the accessibility plan already, but what would you say to an esthetician, whether they have thought about accessibility in their treatment room or not? What tips would you give to them?
So number one, I would say, and this is really one of the most important besides communicating with your client just to find out what their needs are, is that I really truly believe that accommodation is subjective. So there are many ways you can prove accommodation in a business without reconstructing your entire business for the sake of one person. And I think that estheticians, especially, or business owners, period, hear, oh my gosh, I have to make things accessible. And this is an older building or what, they hear, or this is a small space. And, there's a lot of different sizes of wheelchairs. There's a lot of different sizes of people. There's a lot of different, I would never purposely choose to go to a business that I know is upstairs, right? Because this is not my first rodeo. I'm 54 and I know that the world does not accommodate for me. I have to say what I need in the world. People will accommodate me, but the world, they're not going to tear down a business and build it without stairs just because I can't get in there, right? So accessibility is very subjective. So I would encourage people to, estheticians especially, to imagine every single client that you could have come into your room and then formulate a small plan that would work so that you can at least show a willingness to accommodate. Get familiar with doing a facial in a chair with the person leaning back. Get familiar in case they can't transfer onto the treatment table. It's very easy to do a facial when the person is sitting up. It's very easy. And trust me, somebody with a mobility issue like me, I know that I sometimes don't want to transfer onto a table. I'm willing to be uncomfortable to get the desired result. So if I want an microdermabrasion and I know that I don't want to transfer into the bed, what can that esthetician do to meet that need? And there are a lot of esthetician rooms that are really super small, and they will have to kind of come up with a plan to scoot everything over and put the chair in. I mean, I'm really serious when I say that your accessibility plan should really include how a logistical setup for you that works for everyone. Even if I can't go into the room because the door size, like I'm taking a cruise in July and I know that my wheelchair is 26 inches in width. The door is 26.5. So it's a real crapshoot whether or not I'm going to be even able to get into the cabin that I reserved, right? So I always have a plan. My plan is, okay, I'm going to have a great attitude. I'm going to enjoy this cruise. My husband will put me in and out. The steward will come in and put my chair in. So I feel like the consumer who has a disability already has a plan because they've lived with that disability and they've had to kind of adjust their expectations when navigating the community their whole life. And it's kind of just up to the practitioner to listen to what they need and then creating a minor, it doesn't have to be a hugely, impactful plan to the business. Even so much as having, when COVID came, developing curbside service, that became huge for people in wheelchairs because I didn't have to get out of my car to go somewhere and get something ran out to me, right? Like I don't have to find a wheelchair spot. I don't have to get my wheelchair in and out. I don't have to just run in. The amount of effort that it would take me to just run into the store, I may as well just, once I'm out of my car and in my chair, I may as well just do 3 or 4 things in the same place. So I really feel like COVID, while it was so crazy to be in the beauty industry during that time, it really did kind of push people outside their comfort zone and force them to pivot and a lot of the things that we learned during COVID can be used to for accessibility for people who may have different abilities.
I feel like I hear you saying, don't be afraid to just be open, to have dialogue, to ask the questions, and to be open to input from, it's not all on me or Maggie or another practitioner to come up with the solution, that there is a solution, whether it's watch your fingers as you go in the door or having a backup plan like a steward or there is a solution, and don't be afraid of talking that through.
Correct. And most of the time, the consumer who has the disability knows what that solution is because they've already kind of crossed that bridge, right? So they'll tell you, what do you need? Like with my clients who are visually impaired, I never had a visually impaired client. I don't have any experience. None of my family members, like it was new to me. So I simply said, hey, as a disabled person myself, I have found the most effective way to find out to tell people what I need is just to tell people what I need. So I need you to tell me what you need and I'll make that happen. Like I think being raw and not having a chip on your shoulder and not assuming that it's going to be super difficult for you is so disarming to somebody, where if you say, well, so, and I use this example when I train my staff, when I say, okay, I'm just going to pretend to be kind of like an owner, right? When I call a place and I say, okay, can you tell me about your entry? Can I get into your venue for a concert, say? No, we're upstairs. Or if they say, we do have some stairs, however, a block, behind the entryway, we have an elevator. You just call us when we get there. We'll come down and escort you up. You understand, like so much more welcoming but I feel like people instantly get defensive because they think about what they are afraid to do. And no is no. No, nothing. I'm not going to be able to remove those stairs. And maybe the elevator isn't working, but how the message is delivered can really disarm somebody and create a lot less hostility. And, you've got a lot of people in today's day and age that a lot of unbridled rage just floating around out there. And somebody just kind of hopes for a problem. And, there are a lot of laws with regard to Americans with disabilities. And I feel like that needs to be discussed in beauty school so that these new practitioners are not just totally being ignorant without meaning to be ignorant. They just need to be educated.
Now, listeners, we want to hear from you. Share with us on social media through Instagram, Facebook, or by emailing getconnected@ascpskincare.com. Thank you for listening to ASCP Esty Talk. And as always, for more information on this episode or for ways to connect with Ella and myself or Leigh Wick, or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes.